Shalom, everyone. Welcome to this channel. And in the last video that we shared with you, I tried to share with you the scriptural observances, and I shared with you that that is for every one of us. And today we are going to deal with this first scriptural observances in our scripture, and that is called the Feast of Passover. And I would say prior to dealing with this topic, I would like to give you four questions to think of, and then because it goes like this for those who are in this belief already, and for those who are not yet, I would like to let you know that there's a division with regards to the timing, or what's the timing, or the time when this feast should be observed. We all agree that it should be observed on, say, the 14th day, but some of us say celebrate it on the third hour, so on that we consider the evening of the 14th, while some of us observe it, say, directly after the sunset, and then it's the evening. That's the time that we consider the evening of the 14th. And so after the sunset, we prepared our say Passover meal, and then we're going to partake of Passover meal. And so to deal that matter, I'm going to pose these four questions for us to answer, hoping that this can help us better understand when should we celebrate this Passover feast or observance in the scripture. Okay. So the first question I would like to address this to, because there's also some conflict with understanding of this thing. And the first question is the Passover a feast? Okay, because there are some that don't consider this as festival because of the solemnity of this festival, of this observance, I would say. And some would like to join Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And so another thing that I would like to see, the second question that I'm going to raise is, uh, when did the descendants of Israel left Egypt? Did they left on, say, Passover, or on the unleavened bread? And then the third question is, in what time of the day they left Egypt? Was it in the morning or was it in the night? And then the last and final question is, when should we partake the Passover? Okay. And then prior to that, I would like to share the reason why I end up searching this matter. So last year, 2020 Passover, it was the time that I learned that I and my husband don't agree, was with regard to the timing, as I already mentioned a while ago, to with regards to celebrating this festival. It was at the time that I learned that my husband keep this festival at 3 o'clock in the 14th day. That's the time that he considered the evening of the 14th. While I, on the other hand, grow up believing that right after the sunset of the 13th, and then comes in the evening of the 14th, and that's the time where we're going to prepare the Passover and then partake the Passover. Okay, then I would just like to clarify this thing, because those who are not in this belief might get confused that in the scripture, if we try to go to the history of creation, you can find there that the reckoning of the day starts at the evening. If you can see the statement there, it says that, and there was evening and there's morning the first day. And so I do believe that the reckoning in the scripture, in our creator's perspective, is that the whole night is the 12 hours of the 24 hours of one day. And then the following morning, until there's still sun, the sun will not set. That's the 12 hours of that. Let's just put it as 12 hours, because as we all know, uh, those people who are in the, say, northern hemisphere, closer to the pole, and those farther the equatorial region, say, going to the south pole and going north pole of the earth that we live in, they tend to have this shorter period of their daytime and nighttime when as the season change. Okay, let's just say it that way. So let's just go on to this 12 hours. So 12 hours nighttime after the sunset, and 12 hours starting from the morning before the sunset is the another 12 hours that will make the 24 hours of one day. That's how I believe the matter. Okay. And then, so that's how I believe, say, since my parents were uh, become believer in this belief that we have now. That's somewhat July of 1982. So say the first Passover that we have is on the Passover of 1983. So since then, after, see, I learned it last year. So until last year, I keep Passover that way, that after the sunset of the 13th comes in the 14th, and so we'll prepare the Passover meal and we're going to partake the Passover meal. Whereas my husband and my other brothers and sisters, I still call them my brothers and sisters, okay? Because I do consider them brothers and sisters, though they have different belief with regards to these observances. So, whereas my husband and my other brothers and sisters, they keep that because they believe that the evening of the 14th is the, say, the the 3 o'clock or the ninth hour of the 14th, and it goes like this. So, say for example, today is the 13th day of the calendar of Father Yes calendar. By the way, Father Yes calendar is based on the cycle of the moon. The the whole month is based on the cycle of the moon. So the first new moon is the first day of the first month. Okay, we'll make it that clear. Okay, and then so if this is the 13th day since the new moon, and tonight, say for example, when the sunset, say for example, tonight when the sunset, after the sunset, that's already the 14th. And the conflict, the division goes like this. For us who believe that the evening is after the sunset, we will say, we will observe the Passover after the sunset tonight, and that's already the 14th for us. Whereas my other brothers and sisters and my husband, I would say, they were going to wait until tomorrow because tomorrow, on Father Ya's calendar, that's still part of the 14th day. Okay, as I already said, in Father Ya's reckoning, if tonight is the 14th, then the following day of that is the daytime of that, say 24 hours reckoning of one day, and still that's still part of the 14th day. So you are going to wait until 3 o'clock tomorrow, and that's the time that we are going to partake the Passover celebration. Okay, that's the time that they're going to celebrate Passover tomorrow, if it is the 13th today. And so when the sun set tonight, that would be the 14th. And so the other believers were going to celebrate the Passover after the sunset, because that will comes in the 14th. Some of us will celebrate already if it's 13th today, and this other, including my husband, they will celebrate it tomorrow. They will at 3 o'clock tomorrow because that is for them the evening of the 14th day, and that's the conflict. Okay, and so this is the reason why I decided I wanna go search, dig for this matter. And then at the time, we're about to approach with our reading the scripture in the, see, what we call the New Covenant. It's widely known as New Testament. Okay, and so I was thinking that maybe there is a record in the New Covenant that might help me with the conflict of the belief between my husband and I. And this is what I found. And by the way, with this discussion, we did not prepare any slides because I just had a very busy days since, say, last week. And actually, I supposedly make this video last first day of the week, last Sunday in say in Roman calendar, but then just so busy. And I would like you to get your scripture or manual or see, so you can see better what I'm going to deal here. So kindly get your scripture and kindly look these verses that I found in the New Covenant that talks about the Passover. So the first verse that I found that talks about Passover, and they even call this the Last Supper, but that is not the Last Supper actually. That is the Passover meal. And you can find that first in Matthew 26, verse 17, okay? And then the next verse is on Mark chapter 14, verse 12. And then the third is found on Luke 22, verse 1, and also in verse 7 of the same chapter of Luke. Okay. And then when I met those verses, so sad, I could say that I couldn't find what I belonged to find for, what I'm searching for, what I'm yearning for that could help me understand the matter. Because this is how it goes. In Leviticus, kindly get your scripture again, go to Leviticus 23, verses 5 and 6. Now, in verses 5 and 6, you can see in verse 5 that it says that in the evening of the 14th, you are going to celebrate the Passover. And then on the 15th of say, the first month, you are going to celebrate the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay, let's go back. So on the 14th of the evening, we are going to celebrate the Passover in the first month of the year. Okay, in Yah's calendar, not in Gregorian, not in Roman's calendar, not in the calendar that we're using today. So it doesn't mean January. Okay, so it is in Yah's calendar, which I'm going to deal, Yah's willing, in whatever time that is going to give me. I'm going to deal with the thing. Okay, so let's just go move forward. So why did I say that I couldn't find any answer in the new covenant? Because this is how it goes. If you try to go look over with, say, Matthew 26, verse 17, it says there that it's already first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and still they're still looking where they are going to prepare the Passover lamb. Same thing with Mark 14, verse 12, and also with Luke 22, verse 7. So you can see the scene there that it's already first day of Feast of Unleavened Bread, and still they did not celebrate Passover yet. And the worst thing that I really I totally disagree with is Luke 22, verse 1, calling the Feast of Unleavened Bread Passover. No, no, that is not. Okay, and this is how it goes. Why? If you go to Leviticus 23, verses 5 and 6, you can see there that the Passover should be celebrated on the 14th of the first month, whereas the Feast of Unleavened Bread should be celebrated on the 15th. So it's a two different thing. Okay, it's not one festival. Okay, or celebration. Okay, because I give you a question if it's a festival, and we're going to find that out as we go further. Okay, so let's go and move forward. And if you are going to look for that using Strong's Concordance, you can see that there's they have different Strong's number, and the Pesach Passover is can be found. It has a Strong's number 6453, whereas the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is in Hebrew is Machoth, comes from the word macha. The plural is machoth. That is the Strong's number is 4682. Okay, with different meanings. So these two observances, these two celebrations, different meaning, different name. The Hebrew word for Passover is Pesach, and the meaning is passing over. Whereas when we say unleavened bread, that is machoth, comes from the Hebrew word matzah, singular, and that means unleavened bread. So how can we call the observance, the celebration of unleavened bread as the the observance of Pesach or say passing over? So that's a two different thing. I would like to clarify that matter. So you can the thing that I'm going to clarify is that we can call the feast of unleavened bread as, or let me correct it again, the observance, the celebration of, see, unleavened bread, we can't call that Passover. Let me clarify that thing. That is not the same thing. And I don't know, I guess I need to check this thing because my father said that Pesach comes from the word Pasak, and that means death, because at the time there's really death there. But I'll try to check the Strong's concordant. It says passing over, but seems like there's a basic akal simple form of this word, because this is a verb, and say in Hebrew the kal, the basic, the simple form of the verb is, say, it's all an sound, like bara, kara, and barak, and amar. So it all have two sound, whereas when we say Pesach, E in the first syllable and the second it's a. So greater chance it must be the basic of this verb is pasak. Okay. But anyway, we're going to deal that if I can find that thing. Okay. But as of now, as we try to deal with this thing, I couldn't find that it is. Okay. So let's just go and move forward. And so, when usually I face this kind of trouble, this problem, what I do is I usually just give it to Father, yeah, because I do believe He is our great teacher, and I want Him to reveal it at His right time and in His way, okay? And then, finally, we reach again with a new reading cycle. Which mean that we're going to start our reading again in the book of Genesis, and that happens last October 24, 2020. Okay, and then we reach our reading to Numbers 33. Funny thing, because just like the other who keeps reading scripture, reading it already for many times, using same scripture, sometimes you can really find things that it's just, you can say that I've been reading the scripture many times, but it was just this time that I found that this thing here exists. And that's what happened to me when my husband, because it's my husband now who read the scripture, when I hear Numbers 33 verse 3. Kindly check that. You can see there that Moshe recorded the time that they left Egypt, and it says there that it is in the 15th day of the first month. Once again, it is the 15th day of the first month. Okay, the 15th day of the first month, and that is tomorrow after the Passover. Okay, let's go ahead. Uh, After that, my mind turns like, if they left Egypt on the 15th day of the first month, it comes into my mind, so when did the midnight cry happen? And when did they celebrate the Passover? And for a long time, I must admit that I was thinking that this way, that there's partaking of Passover, and then there's a midnight cry because of the killing of the firstborn of the Egyptians, and then they ask for jewel of silver, of gold, and raiment or clothing, and then they left Egypt. That's the scene that's in my mind. And so I even think it this way, that they partake Passover, and then there's a midnight cry, and the Egyptian hasten them to leave, to rush them to leave Egypt. And so in my mind, I thought, let's say, for example, the midnight cry fell on 12 o'clock, like the, or say, fall on 12 o'clock, the midnight cry, is thinking that they left, they asked for remnants, so maybe in 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, they already left Egypt. That's my thinking for a quite long time. So somehow when I was in that thinking, I remember the word of my father, and he said that a serpent, a snake is been considered wise in the scripture. If you can find that passage in the scripture, because as he said, the serpent tests its strength. Test its strength. The snake will not go fight to any animals without trying its strength first. And if the snake will know that it's strong enough, it's then that he will believe that it's really strong enough and could go fight. And so you need to test first whatever you believe. It's what my father told me. And so I decided to send a message to my sister telling her to ask my father with what I found in Numbers 33, and could it be that the celebration is ended at the 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then, because if we say that we left Egypt in the 15th of the first month, could it be that the midnight cry falls also at the midnight of the 15th, and then the partaking as 3 o'clock? So I was thinking at the time that there is a Passover at 3 o'clock, and then midnight cry at 12 at night, and then asking for jewels of silver and gold and clothing, and then left Egypt maybe 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so so I sent that message to my sister, and then my father told me, "My daughter, do not jump from verses to verses," he said. "Go to where that command was first given, and you can find that in Exodus 12." Okay, that's what he said. "Study that chapter first in the scripture, meditate on it, search on it, study on it, learn on it before you go jump to another chapter, another passage in the scripture." And so today, this presentation that I'm sharing with you is about the celebrating Passover based on Exodus 12. Okay, so that's the thing that we are going to deal today. So we're gonna go and look at Exodus 12. Kindly get your scripture, and we're gonna start with verse 2. Okay, now in verse 2, you can clearly see there that the commands that this should be the command out with regards to the first month of our year, which I'm going to deal in another video, the thing that I found out with that matter. Okay, and then if I can't remember, I need to go over my copy here. So by the way, just go over to verse 3. I believe verse 3, you can see there in verse 3 that they are commanded, the Israelite, the children of Israel, the descendants of Israel were commanded to get a lamb, okay, or a sheep. Okay, just kindly read your scripture, please, because I don't have anything here. I'll try to see if I can go over here, because okay, because I wanted to be sure if that's because I guess it could be a goat or a sheep. It's on verse 3, says here, "You are going in the 10th day of the month, you shall take for every man a lamb." Okay, a lamb or a goat. Okay, a lamb or a goat. Says here, take a man should take a lamb. Okay, okay, you're going to get a lamb. Okay, let's make it clear, lamb. So on the 10th day of the first month, they're going to take a lamb. Okay, a year old. I guess there's a lot of description there as you can go read over the thing. But what I'm going to put emphasis here is just you're going to take the Passover lamb on the 10th day of the first month. Now let's move to verse 6. Okay, now on the verse 6, the point that I'm going to get here, that I'm going to let you say ponder of, is we are going to keep that lamb until the 14th day. Okay, 14th day. So from the 10th to the 14th day, we're going to keep the lamb. Okay, Now, as I already discussed a while ago, that the reckoning of the day is starting when the sun sets. This evening and this morning, this the reckoning of a day. Okay. And so it didn't say here particularly what time of the day that you are going to keep the Passover lamb. The thing here that is so clear is you are going to keep it until the 14th day. It did not say uh, the first few minutes after the sunset. That's already the 14th, or it could be in the 3 o'clock as some other believers believe. It could be two, or in the noon time at 12 o'clock could be two, because it did not say what time. It just say 14th day. Okay. Next. Now, if you go verse 7, you can see there that you are going to kill the lamb, okay? And the blood, you are going to put it in the doorpost of your houses, even at the top, the doorpost, the three sides, to here and at the top, okay? You're going to put the blood of the lamb there, okay? Why is that so? It's because at that night, the Malachim, the messenger, will come and they're going to kill the firstborn of those houses that don't have that blood in their doorpost. Got it right? Okay. Now, if we go reading further, verse 8, you can see in the verse 8 that they are going to prepare the meat too, and they are going to eat the flesh, the meat of that lamb. You can see that in verse 8. And you can see there that you're going to eat it along with unleavened bread and bitter herb. And so, it must be known to all of us who are keeping this festival that the eating of the unleavened bread starts at the 14th. As we move further, there's another verse here, verse 18, I guess. For sure, verse 18 also will prove that we need to start eating the unleavened bread on the 14th, because some of us would just start eating unleavened bread on the 15th. But no, my dear brother and sisters. The verse is so clear in verse 18. We need to eat it on the 14th. And in the verse 8, we need to eat it with the meat, the flesh of the lamb, and with the bitter herb. Okay? And then we're gonna go jump now to verse 14. Let me go check my copy. What's in verse 14? Okay. Okay, let me just go over here. What's in the 14th? Okay, look at your scripture too. And in the 14th, okay, the 14th, by the way, is the answer of the question that I posed, that I asked you a while ago, that is the Passover a feast or not, because some don't consider it a feast because it's solemn. The answer is on verse 14. You can see there that that is a feast. Just kindly go to your scripture and read Exodus 12 verse 14, and you can see that it is a feast. Now let's go jump now to verse 17, and you can see there in verse 17 that it says it's a feast of unleavened bread, that Father brought the vision of the army of the Israel from Egyptian. Okay, let me go and get 17, and it shall be that we need to observe the feast of unleavened bread. And by the way, if you try to look at verse 14, you can see that these festivals are forever, and we all know that forever is no end, so there's no such thing that this thing is already abandoned. Also in the verse 17 it says here, and so it says here that he brought the armies out of the land of Egypt. Now uh, we might say that it's just the army has been brought out. But remember, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, as I already shared with you in Leviticus 23, is on the 15th, right? And then the record also of Moshe in Numbers 33, verse 3 says that it's also in the 15th after the Passover, the morrow of the Passover, that they left Egypt. Okay, and also here in verse 17 it says that Father take out the armies of Israel, or the children of Israel, or descendants of Israel, from the out of the land of Egypt on the on that feast. Okay, on the feast of unleavened bread. Okay, now let's go jump now to verse 22. Okay. Now remember, I said a while ago in verse 7, it's not me, the scripture said, that the Father Yah commanded the children of Israel, the descendants of Israel, to put blood on their doorpost. And the reason for that, so the Malachim, the messenger who will kill the firstborn, will pass over those houses that has blood on their doorpost. Okay? And then kindly look at this verse in verse 22. You can see there that we, the Israelite, the children of Israel, cannot get out in their house until morning. And so by the time that they put the blood on their doorpost, they need to stay inside the house. Why is that so? Because if you are going to get out from your house and you can meet the Malachim, this messenger that's widely known now as angel and called an angel of death, we're going to kill you if you are not inside your house, especially if you are a firstborn. And that is why the command is you can't get out in your house. And thus, that's the thing that we're going to analyze as we go further. But let's just remember that one. We can't get out in our house until the morning come. Okay? Now let's go to verse 29. I believe we're now on verse 29 because I'm just taking the very important thing that might help us be able to understand the celebration better. Okay. Now go to verse 29 and you can see there that at midnight, so there is exact moment that's been cleared that stated in our scripture where the killing of the firstborn took place, and that is at the midnight. Okay, and then after that you can see that they already wants to get out from the land of Egypt. And then what I'm just going to go forward now is let's just go to verse 42. Okay, now if you try to look at verse 42, it says there, starting from 40, by the way, if you try to look at verse 40, it says there's that it's 430 years. The sojourning of the Israelite is 430 years. The sojourning of the children of Israel in Egypt is 430 years. And then, what's this? In the 430th day of their sojourning there, that is the time that Father Yah get them out from the land of Egypt. And then in verse 42, there a description at what time they left Egypt. And it says that it is night. So kindly get this scripture and you will know the answer of the question that I posed a while ago, that I asked you a while ago, what time did they left Egypt? Was it in the morning or was it the night? And the answer can be found in Exodus chapter 12, verse 42, and that is night. Okay. Now we go move forward and we're going to analyze the matter. Okay. So we can better understand when should we celebrate Passover, because there's one question now left that's not answered. So I already answered based on the scripture that the first three questions, if the Passover is a feast, and that is a yes, and you can find that in Exodus chapter 12 verse 14. And when did the Israelite left Egypt? And the answer can be found in Numbers 33 verse 3, and also it can also be found in Exodus 12 verse 17, and that is Feast of Unleavened Bread. That's the answer. And now I answered the question that what time of the day they left, and the answer can be found in Exodus 12 verse 42, and that is night. Okay, so there's just one question left now unanswered, and that is when is the Passover celebrated in their time and in our time and in the time to come. Okay, when should we celebrate Passover? So since verse 8 of Exodus 12 says that it is night when they eat the meat of the Passover lamb and the unleavened bread and the bitter herb, and that is the three things are the one who that's the everything of the Passover meal, and it is night. Therefore, I would say that the observance of the Passover is at night, but the preparation of it, because you need to eat it at night, you need to prepare it at the evening, okay? Now, so so it's clear now that it is night. It is night when they partake, when they eat the Passover meal, okay? Now the question is, when what night? Was it the 14th night or the 15th night? Okay, so that's the thing that we're going to deal now. Okay, now we know that they left Egypt on the 15th, and according to Numbers 33, verse 3, okay, and then according to Exodus 12, verse 42, it is night, and so it's clear that they left Egypt on the night of the 15th. Now the question is, and it's usually the argument of my husband, and it goes like this: they both eat the Passover on the night of the 15th, and they left Egypt to at the night of the 15th. Okay, because that's what the scripture says. Now let's say if that's correct. So usually my husband's argument goes like this: they partake the Passover at 3 o'clock, and then they left Egypt at the night of the 15th, because when the sun set, it's 3 o'clock, and then the sun set, then it's already 15th, okay? And then they left Egypt at the time. But when I told him that they ate the Passover at night, he says, yeah, they prepare it at 3 o'clock and they eat it at the night of the 15th, and they also left Egypt at the night of the 15th. Okay, let's say it's fine, okay? Now let's remember that we need to put into the scene the midnight cry, the killing of the firstborn that took place at midnight. And let's also put into the scene that they can't get out until the morning of until the time that the blood was there. They can't get out until the morning. So let's say that they put the blood, you you prepare your Passover at 3 o'clock in the 14th. Okay, let's put it that way. And then you're going to eat it, because after 2 o'clock there will be sunset, and then the night will come in, and that's already the 15th, right? And so you're gonna eat your Passover now at night, because Exodus 12 verse 8 says you should eat it at night. And so if you're going to eat it at the night of the 15th, and you're going to leave also, because uh, verse 42 says that they left Egypt at the night of the 42, the ninth, no, no, the ninth of the the fifth, the 15th. They also left at night, by the way. Let me clarify the thing. So they left at night, and if you say that in the 15th you eat your Passover, and Numbers 33 verse 3 says that they left Egypt on the 15th, and verse 42 of Exodus 12 says it is night when they left the Egypt. So what's the sin now? You're eating Passover, then you go left Egypt at the same night, and then what? There's a midnight cry after that. Remember that when you get out in the house of that night, you will be dead. Okay, because you need to stay in the house until the morning. So if we are going to say that we are going to partake, we're going to prepare our Passover at 3 o'clock, and then wait for the sunset and eat our Passover meal at night of the 15th, and we're going to leave at the night of the 15th, because Numbers 33 says that they left Egypt on the 15th, and verse 42 says that it is night when they left Egypt. It's messed up, because how can you get out from your house at the time when you can't get out at that night? Because after that, at the midnight of that, there will be massive killing of the firstborn son. And the instruction is you need to stay in your house until the morning of the time. So with that, I would really say that that is not the 15th, because after that we still need to ask for the jewel of silver and gold and remnant or clothing. So I do believe that to put things right, it goes like this. Agree with me or not, I'm just sharing with you to the best of what Father allows, cause, help, and make me understand. And I do hope that He gonna work the same thing as He works with me. But if you don't, I still love you and I understand, because say I was born in 1982, and my parents become a believer of July 1982, and our first Passover was, say, January of, oh no, the Passover of 1983. And so since then, I would say that it's just this year that I have a clear and firm stand. Where am I going to celebrate Passover? So if you couldn't get it at this time, I totally understand and I love you. Okay, so I'll just give this thing as my say was the thing that I could see the best scene that took place at the time, and that's the thing that we need to follow because this is a memorial of that time. Okay, so I do believe since we need to let the Passover, you need to keep it until the 14th day, according to verse 6 of Exodus 12. So we need to keep the Passover until the sun will set of the 14th day, and oh no, and after the sun will set of the 13th, that's already the 14th, you need to keep it, the Passover, up to the time, and you're going to prepare it, and then we're going to eat it at the ninth of the 14th, okay? And then follow that, pardon, I needed to use headset because it's not working with our computer, and I know it might took a long time, and as I already shared with you, our camera will just record up to 20 minutes, and I don't want this to be cut, and so I need to utilize our desktop here. And since it's not working without the headset, so I need to wear my headset and it's moving. Okay, so let's go and move forward. So this is the thing that I understand with the matter. So after the sun will set on the 13th, that's the starting point of the 14th. We need to keep the Passover until that time. Then we're going to prepare it. And then at the ninth of that is the 14th, starting of the 14th day, we are going to partake our Passover meal. Okay. Follows after that at the midnight of that, starting of the 14th, because the reckoning of Father Yes Day, it starts with the evening, and then night, and then midnight, and then morning, and then noontime, and then sunset, and then it will go until the sun will not set. When the sun will set, and another day will come in. That's how the reckoning of the day in our Creator's way of reckoning a day. It's so opposite with our reckoning today, because we're gonna start our day after say 12 1 in the morning, and it goes at the 12 at night, right? So it's not like that in Yah's way. Okay, so we start at sunset, night, and then midnight, and then morning, and then noon, and then afternoon. Okay, so the scene to me goes like this. Okay, the sunset comes in the 14th day. That is the starting point of the 14th day. And the night of that, they eat the Passover meal. And then midnight comes in. That's when the killing of the firstborn of the Egyptian took place. And then after that, morning comes in. Remember, they can't get out according to verse 22. So they stay in their house, okay? And remember, they have given a command that they need to ask for an jewel of silver and gold and remnant or clothing. So after when they are allowed to get out already in the morning, they ask for what Father asked commanded them to ask. They ask for jewel of silver, of gold, raiment, or clothing. That's what they did the entire day. So remember what I've said? So it's morning already until the noon, until the afternoon. That's what they did on the 14th day. And then, of course, sunset will comes in, right? And then when the sunset comes in, follows that, next to that is night, and that is already 15. And that is the time I do believe that they left Egypt. And thus, what I believe that we should partake the Passover on the night after the sunset of the 13th comes in the 14th. That's the time that we are going to prepare our Passover, and then we are going to partake it at night, and that's the time that I do believe the best way to arrange the matter, because say If you're gonna say maybe they left Egypt on the another night, let's be on the 16th, it will not coincide with the record of Moshe. Remember that one. And I would say, with regards to the record of the new covenant, I do believe that Matthew, Mark, and Luke are Hebrews, and they keep these observances since from their ancestors. And I can assure with that that they fully know and understand this thing. But we should not forget that our scriptures went to the Latins, the Greeks, and the Europeans whose language is English, and so greater chance it was the translator who messed up the writings. I really don't believe that Luke, a professional, a doctor, would not understand what is machot and what is Pesach. I do believe that Luke fully understands that Pesach is different from Machut. But it's just, I do believe that the translators who do not observe this festival mess up the translation. And I would just like to let you know that translators admit that they committed about 3,000 to 5,000 mistakes, errors in translating the scripture, and that's called biblical errors or rightfully scriptural errors. So there's lots of errors in our scripture, but it's not because that there's an error there that we don't read it anymore and it's not reliable anymore. I'll just say we need to carefully study that so we'll know what is the error. Okay, so I'll not discuss anymore what are the errors there, because in some of my videos I already shared that. And so I'll just hope and pray that Father are able to use me today as a helper to anyone who needs help, and I'm able to help you to have a better understanding with regards to when should we celebrate the Passover. And until next time, yes willing, shalom.